Thank you all very much for being here and having me here. I'm going to play a song and then we can talk. This is called Salt. You're all so close. My name is Ben Cosgrove, and I write instrumental piano music inspired by landscape, place, and environment. I found that the fastest way to explain myself to any new group of people is that I am a geography nerd trapped in the body of a piano player. This is sort of what I've landed on to make my life make sense. I'm especially interested in what it feels like to be a human-sized person in different sorts of physical environments, like why you might feel exhilarated on the top of a mountain, or claustrophobic in a tunnel, or disoriented in the middle of a big wide open field. And luckily for me, and the 2 or 3 things I know how to do, it turns out that instrumental music is a really fruitful medium for kind of exploring these feelings and figuring out where they come from and what they mean. So that song, like I mentioned, is called Salt. It's the title track to an album that is also called Salt, that is all about different sorts of places where you can't necessarily depend on the ground being underneath you when you want it to be. So that song in particular is about salt marshes, which are above water for half the day and underwater for the other half of the day, and yet they're a salt marsh the whole time, which I feel like is a nice thing to aspire to be like I'm going to play a song from my new album, which I have here as a prop to convince you to buy it. This came out in January. It's called Topograph. And as you can see, it's very beautiful. You should all have one in your home. And this is the first song I released from this album. It's called Obad, and I wrote it during a different project that I did with the Upper Mississippi River National Wildlife Refuge. It's this big, long wildlife refuge in the Midwest that starts just south of the Twin Cities and follows the river down into kind of the middle of Illinois and Iowa. Through this region that I feel like not enough people know about or appreciate, called the driftless area, which is this part of the Midwest where Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois all meet. And it's called the driftless area because instead of the glaciers sort of gliding around and ironing everything out into what we tend to imagine when we picture the Midwest, here they didn't do that. So as a result, as the river moves through this section, it's sort of surrounded on all sides by all these cliffs and bluffs and rolling river valleys, and the whole area looks honestly much more like Southern Vermont than it does like most of Wisconsin or Minnesota. So this is one of the songs I gave them. It's called Obad, and Obad is like a sad or wistful poem written about the dawn. And I call it that because of this phenomenon whereby if you wake up at dawn and you're on the river, because of all these bluffs and cliffs that surround you, it sort of takes that much longer for the light to hit you. I hope you like it. I'm playing a song now from a different album. This is a record I made a couple years ago, during the pandemic actually. I made a record called The Trouble with Wilderness, which I wrote because I came to sort of this concerning realization where I discovered that I've been kind of running around the country playing songs about landscapes every night and telling stories about them. And I realized to my alarm that I was sort of talking over and over again about a lot of the same kinds of places. Like I had a lot of music about national parks and about wilderness areas and oceans, and not a lot of music about places that actually have, people in them. So I worried then that I might be, by doing that, I might be accidentally reinforcing an idea about like what nature is and where we might find it. That is not consistent with what I believe, which is, of course, the tree in your backyard is every bit as wild and interesting, worthy of wonder and attention as one in the middle of a national park. So I made that album, which has 12 songs on it. This is 12. 12 songs that are each about different moments of overlap between the built and natural environment, where it's sort of hard to tell, what is nature and what is not. So this is the first song in that album. It's called "The Machine in the Garden," and it is about plants growing up through the cracks in the sidewalk. Or whatever you want, it's an instrumental song. This is so the album I made after Troubled Wilderness is called Bearings, and I wrote Bearings in a very a way that was very unusual for me. So my normal compositional process is that I'll go to a place and think about it, and I'll write a song about it, and then I will then obsessively overthink that song for months and years before I actually record it. By which time I normally hate it. So I was trying to think of a way around that. And I was also thinking a lot about the way that I tend to learn and engage with landscapes in real life, which is always by moving around and through them in some way. So I never really feel like I've got a good read on a new city until I've walked across it in every possible direction, or that I really understand a new valley that I'm in until I've seen this hill from 7 different angles. And I was trying to think about how I could capture that sense of movement and orientation in the music. And what I landed on to solve both of these problems at once was this sort of questionable strategy where I booked a bunch of studio time over the course of a year and then showed up for each one of these sessions without having written any music at all. I just had a notebook like this full of text about all of the places and locations and geographies and concepts that I knew I wanted to have music about. And then the idea was then I would have to find each song in the moment by moving around the piano the way you learn a landscape by moving around it. So I was very smugly self-satisfied with the brilliance of this creative idea. Then I got to the studio and immediately felt like an idiot who was about to waste everybody's time and money by showing up to a recording session without having written any songs. But then we did this song, which really kind of fell off my fingers all at once, and kind of gave me confidence that this might not be as hubristic an undertaking as I had thought it might be for a second. This song is called Ariel. That is not the mermaid or the font, but the adjective. And I wrote this because it was pointed out to me that I have a lot of music about land, and I have a lot of music about water. I don't have a lot of, I didn't at the time have a lot of music about the sky, which when you think about it is like 50% of the world as we experience it. So it's a small corrective measure. I'm going to do another song from Topograph, which again is this one. this is a song that came about in a really complicated way. That so there's a long story behind it that I probably shouldn't bore you with, but I will. About a year ago, I got an email from this reporter from a big, fancy, important publication who said, I caught wind of your music. I'd love to do an article about you, but I'm only allowed to write about things that happen in New Jersey, New York, or Connecticut. Is there any chance you're writing a song about one of those places anytime soon? And I said, yes. which was not true. So I then had to immediately after sending that, I had to write to every land trust and conservation group and land thing I knew in any of those states, hoping that someone would commission me to write a song. And then the Yale Forestry School saved my life. They have this amazing the Yale Forest, as you know, they have even quite close to here. There's one in Keene. But they have various properties all over New England that they used to sort of teach people how to be foresters. And the sort of crown jewel of their collection of forest is this huge property in northeastern Connecticut. It's called the Quiet Corner of Connecticut. And it's called the Yale Myers Forest. It's 8,000 acres. And they wanted me to write a song about it. And so I did then get to spend 6 months kind of walking around this forest with, experts and wearing a hard hat and doing the, and the thing that really struck me about it was kind of there's a few interesting things working for it. There's, for one thing, the geology in that part of Connecticut is very bizarre. It's very glaciated and lumpy, and there's a lot of ridges, and you get kind of turned around and confused easily. And then on top of that, because it's a research forest and there's tons of different forestry management practices happening all over the same property at the same time, the net effect of both of these things is that no matter where you are in the forest, if you go for 6 or 7 minutes in any direction, you will feel like you're on a different planet, which I thought was really cool. So I wrote this song about that, which is more about that. It's about wandering further and further into a place like this, and finding as you do so that you become simultaneously more lost and more oriented. And the song is called Quiet Corner. feels appropriate to play a song about rain. I guess this is a song. It's either about rain or snow, but it's specifically about the phenomenon whereby I find that, in situations like that where the atmosphere is suddenly filled with other stuff, it can kind of throw off your spatial sense in ways that are often unexpected, or like your sense of where you are, how far away things are, even in a really familiar environment. Which I think is really cool and interesting because most of my music is about disorientation, as I learned. This song is called Anorak. I'm now going to play a song I wrote about here, which you've conveniently already read all about, so I have nothing more to say. I should start doing that for all of my songs to make my shows about 12 minutes long. But for those of you who haven't got to read the essay yet, not sure how far back I should go, but I've been coming in and out of the Dutton Farmhouse now for a year or so. And Landmark Trust USA has been enormously helpful in accommodating me and feeding me information. I really kind of went maximalist when I first started coming up here to absorb as much about this place as I possibly could. So I read about apples, and I read about the history of Dummerston. I learned the word dendrochronology.
Here's the dendrochronologist.
Oh, no way. I have much to talk to you about. And I came back, on purpose. We arranged for me to come visit at different times of the year and see it in different seasons, and I got about 6 months into this, and I realized I know so much about this house now, but I have no idea what I'm going to write about. What I wound up realizing was the most important thing about this place to me, or the thing that struck me most acutely, was this is the first time I've ever been asked to write about a building before. I get a lot of commissions that are consider this field, or consider this mountain, consider this hiking trail. And I have never really been made to think about what it feels like to sit still and kind of be sheltered and protected in a place. The essay talks about how my first night here was a torrential, blinding rainstorm, and I was just sort of here alone in this house with no idea of what was going on outside. And I decided that's kind of what that's what I wanted to make the song about. I think this has been a shelter to a lot of different types of people for such a long time, and that's a thing I tend not to appreciate enough in my life, which mostly consists of flitting around the country like a maniac. So thank you for this opportunity to learn how it's nice to sit still every once in a while. Working title for the song is Shelter. You're the first people to hear that. Thank you very much. It's very important that you like that one. So.
It's perfect.
Yes, the most terrifying part of my job is playing songs about the places that people live in that I do know. So, thank you for not running me out of town on a rail. Yeah, to make up for it, here's a song about a river where I grew up. This is about the Nashua River, which is not far from here. Nashua River starts just west of the towns of Fitchburg and Leominster. Winds through those, they're two old mill towns, where my grandmother lives. And it dips south, picks up a major tributary, then heads north, crosses into the state of New Hampshire, meets the Merrimack River in the city of Nashua, and then flows out to the ocean from there. And in the process of doing all this water sort of roughly describes the whole broader region in which my family's from, where I grew up, and so I've always felt very attached to the Nashua River. A fun fact about the Nashua River is that as recently as like 50 years ago, it was bright orange. It was one of the most polluted waterways anywhere in the country. It reeked. Your eyes would water if you went near it. It changed color every couple days, depending on like what the paper companies were putting into it. It's this real embarrassment and blight on the landscape. But today, it's a federally protected wild and scenic river. It's you can boat in it, you can swim in it. There's greenways protecting it along both sides for long stretches. It's this really miraculous turnaround. And this is almost entirely due to the work of one woman, named Marion Stoddard, who moved to the area in the late 60s and was horrified by this river. And so then sort of made it her life's work to turn it around. So she founded one of the first watershed associations anywhere in the country. She spent decades of her life mailing like mason jars full of horrible water to Congress people. She really put her back into it for decades and decades, and has a lot to show for it. So this is a song about the river that she saved. Just a couple more songs for you guys, but thank you again for coming out on a unpleasant day to be leaving your house. And before I forget to say so, thank you once more to the Brattleboro Music Center and Lambert CSA for making this such a pleasant experience. And yes, I'm sure you all know, but there will also be a concert at the end of this month at the Brattleboro Music Center. If you want to hear some of these stories again, and also some new ones, and at least one.
On May 29th.
May 29th.
7 p.m.
I will be there.
We were hoping.
I'm going to do a song now. This is another song from the Trouble with Wilderness album, which is the one about the built environment and the natural environment sort of overlapping confusingly. I thought I was going to write a whole record about that. I should have at least one song that is about gardens, which can represent these funny instances where human beings try to apply reason and order and right angles and straight lines to all these plants that kind of fundamentally go out in that direction. Don't care a lot about order or geometry. I'm sure that orchidists have to deal with this. But yeah, that tension between order and chaos, interestingly enough, the song is inspired by. The title of the song is "This Rush of Beauty in the Sense of Order," which is a line that I stole from E.B. White. His wife Catherine White was a really avid gardener and also a brilliant writer, but they'd often be several states apart. She'd be in Maine, he'd be in New York, or vice versa. And so they wrote all these letters back and forth, many of which have been collected because they're both brilliant writers, so you can read them. And at the end of one of his letters to her, he wrote her this very cute poem about gardens and gardening, the last two lines of which are, "Not sun, not soil alone shall bring to border this rush of beauty and this sense of order." So I took that and that was the name of this one. It also makes me sound very learned and well-read. But in full disclosure, I can tell you that it's printed on the floor of the mall in Portland, Maine. Where I do all of my reading. That's my garden song. This will be my last song. Thank you all again so much for being here and for making this happen in the first place. The sun is now coming out.
That's drawing.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it.
You did it.
The last song I'm going to play for you today is an older song of mine. This is, as you know, because that's why I'm here, and also I've been talking about it all afternoon. The coolest part of my job is that I get to do a lot of residencies and collaborations and partnerships with all sorts of different interesting places that I wouldn't necessarily have been able to spend a lot of time and learn about otherwise. Turns out a really nice ancillary benefit of writing music about landscape is that if you just do it for long enough, then eventually landscapes start writing to you and asking you to come there and do that. This is a song from the weirdest one of those I ever did, which was several years ago. I was invited to be the artist at sea on a research ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which is weird for me because I write piano music about land. And so voluntarily walking the situation, there was no piano and also no land. The view was very cool. It was the ship was owned and operated by this oceanographic research company, and they had begun this pilot program where they wanted to start bringing, in addition to all the scientists who are on board these research cruises, they wanted to bring like a poet or a painter who would live and work alongside them for the duration and ultimately make some work that reflected what they were doing on board, which I was all about. However, it turned out to be early enough in this pilot program that they were still working out some of the kinks. And I wound up on a leg of this ship's journey that had no scientists on it at all. So, which was not ideal. The way this all happened is that the ship was in Vietnam. There were a bunch of scientists there doing a lot of interesting work off the coast of Vietnam. One day, all of them finished up and flew home. And then 1 hour later, I arrived. And the crew and I sailed from Vietnam to Australia over the course of about a month, during which time I mostly threw up. And we arrived in Australia, I left, and then truly 1 hour later, a bunch of new scientists arrived and did a bunch of work off the coast of Australia that I can only imagine was fabulously interesting and would have been trying music about. So this is a very existentially challenging time for me. Because not only could I not do the thing I was literally there to do, but I was also the only person on the ship that was not in any way necessary. But the silver lining of it turned out to be because there was no science for me to write about, it kind of freed me up to write about the experience of being out in the middle of the ocean the way I would write about any other weird new landscape. Have any of you been in that situation? You've been out of sight of land for a few days at a time? It's unbelievably weird. I have another song that I didn't play for you today, but I will play it on the 29th, about the first time I drove across western Kansas, which is truly the only thing I could think to compare it to. Just like not knowing how to make sense of such a flat, open, enormous space. And this, was very, very similar. If you stand on the deck of the ship and look out, it looks a bit like, blue Kansas. Or like I would say, a Rothko paint. It's a big field of this color, big field of this color, sort of a hazy line in the middle for days. And you can look at that and note how it's, still, it's stable, it's unchanging. It seems static in a way, but if you think about it for more than 1 second, you realize like nothing I'm looking at is still at all, or has been for weeks. Like everything I'm looking at is moving. The wind is blowing, the waves are going, and the current's moving, and that thing's moving, and you're moving. And the idea that you can stand in the middle of this riot of motion and chaos and feel even vaguely oriented and upright and like which way is what, really struck me as a remarkable feature of being a human being that I had not thought to appreciate before. So I wrote a lot of music about that, and this song, which is considerably shorter than the story I'm telling you about it, is called Landfall, and it's about the moment when the ship gets back into port, and this weird mode of orientation that I was just talking about has to sort of gracelessly and inelegantly transition back to the one you've had for your whole life on land, where you can kind of lean against the ground and reasonably expect it to be there. I think that's all the information you need to have. Thank you guys so much again for coming out. It's nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
I'll be around afterwards. Bye, CD, or say hi. And thank you again for all of this.